Welcome to the Gorgeous Guru podcast. It's your host, Day, the Gorgeous Guru. Today we're discussing goddess energy or feminine energy. And when I speak of feminine energy, I'm speaking of just that, energy. I'm not speaking of gender or sex or body parts. So the way I like to describe feminine and masculine energy is by using the principles of yin and yang. Yin energy represents the divine feminine. It represents the earth, passivity, receptivity, rest, and darkness, or the unknown. Yang energy is the divine masculine. It represents heaven, aggressiveness, activity, penetration, and light, or what's known and seen. Everyone has both feminine and masculine energy within their being. Usually one is more played up than the other. My goal in this time and space is to balance my energy, balance it perfectly where my yin and yang, my feminine and masculine energy is completely balanced, and then play up either the divine feminine or divine masculine energy when I need to. Let me give you an example of that. If I've been going too hard and pushing too much, being a bit too active and aggressive, I need to tune up my yin energy, my divine feminine energy, which brings me back to a place of flow, of ease, of rest. Okay, now on the other token, if I want to get something done, maybe I came up with an idea. The idea is there, I've thought about it, and now I want to bring it into the physical. I have to put activity behind that, right? I have to be assertive. I have to take certain steps. In that case, I'm going to dial up my yang energy. Now, that's my goal, but I haven't always done very well at balancing my feminine and masculine energy. One day I was channeling, receiving messages from the divine, and they pointed out to me that although I talk a good game, right? I talk about the goddess and the divine feminine and and all of that. They said to me, you don't really like or respect divine feminine energy. And they said, you don't like darkness, you don't like uncertainty. Anytime things get uncertain in your life, you get fearful and stressed out. You push back against it and you try to go back to the divine masculine or that masculine principle where things are known and clear and ordered. And I was like, oh shit, they are telling the truth. So I got read for filth as per the usual by my spirit team, but it's true. I feel so much more confident and comfortable when things are clear, when I know what's happening, when things are ordered, when there's a plan in place and I can say, okay, this is what I'm doing and this is how it needs to be done. Anytime we go to the darkness, the void of that feminine energy, I freak out. And I think a lot of that comes from just how I've been socialized. Capitalism particularly, like learning to go out and work for things, right? And put clear action or take clear action towards things. It's really hard and uncomfortable for me to be in an uncertain, dark, unknown place. To be honest, y'all, I feel safe when things are certain. I feel safe when things are clear. Anytime things are nebulous, uncertain, that's when I freak out. So I actually call that the void. It's kind of like the womb of the feminine where conception takes place, right? The darkness. So going forward, I'll continue working on strengthening those areas of my feminine energy where I've been struggling, right? So for me, that would be learning how to embrace darkness, uncertainty, the unknown, learning how to go with the flow of life as opposed to wanting to control everything, right? Because when you're in this state where you have to be certain of things and you have to know, that really is a form of control. And I need to get better at going with the flow. So I'll be working on embracing that darkness, even though it's hard as hell for me. Yeah, I'm definitely more comfortable with the yang or masculine energy. They were dead on when they told me that. So I say the past 2 years, this is something I've been working on, that I've been forced to work on actually. Getting better at being in a passive, receptive energy where I'm resting and flowing with life. I've become accustomed to pushing, working towards, aspiring to things, and goals. And to be in a state of passivity, receptivity, and rest just doesn't feel natural. So it's something I have to work towards. Honestly, I really do. I have to put work into being in that energy more. Some of the ways I'm doing that are by consciously taking moments to rest. Like recently, I just revamped my website, daydreamalston.com. Website design is one of my skills. If you're ever interested in help with a website, you can check out daydreamalston.com and check out my digital marketing services. But that work is tedious. It's very tedious work getting a website just right. And when I was done, I forced myself to just rest, not to jump into the next thing, focus on my next goal. I just laid my ass down. I read a book of poetry. I read some of my own poetry. I watched television, cooked a good meal for myself, just things to decompress from doing the tedious work of website design. Another way I step into my feminine energy is through play. I love playing. Till this day, I just love going out and playing with my friends, just like I used to when I was a kid. So that'll be like going out to dinner with my girlfriends or having some wine and just talking shit and laughing. That's my favorite form of play. Parties as well. Some of the other ways I am incorporating or dialing up my feminine energy are by embracing ease and flow. Again, that doesn't feel natural because of the indoctrination I've received. I feel better when I'm performing, when I'm completing tasks and doing things. Another thing I want to discuss when it comes to feminine energy is pleasure portals. So I feel like all of us should have pleasure portals or things we do that support us in aligning with pleasure at any given moment. And I'm not just speaking of big things, right? I think for some people, they just see pleasure as taking a trip, going away or doing something that costs a lot of money. But when I speak of pleasure portals, I'm speaking of, yeah, a trip could absolutely be a pleasure portal. But what are the things that you're doing on a daily basis to just enter into a state of pleasure? That's another way you dial up that feminine energy. Some of the simple things I do to open pleasure portals is number one, dance. Right? I can turn on a song right now in my own home and just dance around. I love to dance. It's always been one of my joys, one of my passions, particularly to dancehall reggae music, soca. So that's the way I open a pleasure portal. That can change my energy instantly. Another way to open a pleasure portal is laughter, watching a comedy, talking to one of my friends because I know we're going to be talking about some crazy shit that makes us laugh, and laughing at myself, laughing at life, not taking things so seriously. That opens a pleasure portal. I've had meditation open pleasure portals for me because once you get your chakras activated, you can get the kundalini up and get that shakti in your spine, and that will open a pleasure portal in and of itself. Sweet treats are a pleasure portal for me. I like to bake, so I'll bake something sweet, just to indulge in that form of sensuality and the sense of taste. Dating is also a pleasure portal. So if you're dating someone or you're in a loving, healthy relationship that feels really good, all of that passion and love and sweetness, that's a pleasure portal. Now, what's interesting about pleasure portals is they can also help you manifest. So, say you have something that you're trying to manifest. A perfect manifestation technique is to tap into the energy, the feelings associated with these pleasure portals, and focus on that while attaching it to the thing you want to manifest. So, pleasure portals are definitely a way to connect with the divine feminine. I found that to be really, really helpful. We would do well to try to incorporate pleasure portals into our everyday existence. And like I said, they can be big or small, but it's important to have small ones that you can use or connect with daily. Today's Gorgeous Guru prompts, which are prompts for reflection or journaling, are: what are your pleasure portals? What are those little things that you do and that you can do easily to align with pleasure, play, and joy? If you have pleasure portals, make sure you incorporate them into your daily existence. And if you don't, make sure you get some. If you're loving the podcast, consider becoming a supporter of the show by making monthly donations. You can do so at thegorgeousgurupodcast.com. Thank you so much for joining me today. You could have spent this time doing anything, but you decided to spend it with me, and I'm grateful.